That alone, verse number 92. Unexpended, the law of action operates outside. Therefore it is eternal. Within, endearment is inseparable. To this, action is only an external symbol. Commentary. Narayana Guru began the study of Atmopadesh Satakam by presenting the primordial cause of everything, the cosmic mold or karu, in its dual aspect of manifestation, shining outside as the world we consider external, and operating inside as our personal experiences and the knowledge we have of the world. He pointed out that in both the world outside and the knowledge inside, there is an immanent as well as a transcendent aspect. When we speak of knowledge, our idea is that it is an awareness we experience in our brain. We consider the concrete world as a reality by itself, standing in contrast to pure ideas. This is understandable, but in this presentation, both these aspects are assigned to the Karu. Now in our study, we are returning to the world, which is specially emphasized in the first verse as the external world and its internal counterpart. Two kinds of action are taking place in these two realms. In the external world, we see not only the action of the individual, but many other kinds of action. For instance, we see the sun appearing in the east, traversing the sky and setting in the west. The rotation of the earth is bringing us day and night. Additionally, the whole solar system is moving, and all the stars are moving away from each other. We don't actually see this, but arrive at the understanding by making calculations. As Eddington puts it, some of the major actions we see, we know only as concepts. We have to accept these concepts, or else we would not be able to explain certain things that take place. In fact, when examined closely, most of the action in our personal experience will also be seen to depend on ideas passing through our mind. At any rate, in the external world, we see many actions going on, and they are continuous. The earth never stops rotating and revolving. The sun does not stop radiating its energy. Your body is also external in terms of your knowledge, and in it, the same kind of continuous functioning is taking place. It isn't that the body is permanent, but the physical entities it consists of are continuously fulfilling their functions. Moreover, everything, including us, is constituted of simple elements, where each element has its own structure and function. Each element is also continuous, in that its atoms never stop their motions. There is no end to it, and we accept that. So the external world has a law of continuous action. The Guru says it is always going on, unexpended. That covers the external factors. Now to the inside. We are drawn to things which please us. When we are drawn, we see the potential of realizing or experiencing our ananda by structuring or reassembling or adjusting things in a certain way. This is like what a sculptor does. She can see the form lying latent in the marble or whatever material, but the amorphous shape of the block veils the form she wants to bring out. Then she carves away whatever is extraneous so that we can see the true form without anything obscuring it. Like that, when you visualize your Ananda, the true joy of yourself, in a certain situation, you inevitably associate it with things or people. Then you postulate in your mind that it will take so much effort and so much time to arrive at that happiness. The true happiness is now veiled and obstructed. The obstruction is to be removed so the happiness can again be experienced. So mentally we conceive what we are going to find, and then we make efforts for the removal of the obstructions. But as we have often pointed out, the realization of the self is not something that can be achieved through any action. A raw fruit is not edible until it ripens. You have to wait for the transformation of the green fruit into a sweet one. But in the case of the self, no such transformation is required. It is always Ananda. Because of the obscuring aspects of Prakriti we spoke of earlier, the true nature of the self is veiled to different degrees on different occasions. At times, the veiling principle can be easily removed, and at other times, it persists for a long time, leading you to get involved in more action. There is no time when the aspiration to be with our own true nature is not with us. Our seeming alienation from it comes not in reality, but in the individuated forms of our consciousness. When the self manifests itself with a body, the body identity acts as a coloring or conditioning agent. This is the first veiling principle. Because of it, part of consciousness feels as if it is segregated from its true field, its true home, so it is always seeking to return to its native nature. The inner quest continues in us, never leaving, perpetuated by the conditioning of the physical body. In reality, nothing is alien to us. Everything belongs to the self, and the self is existence through and through. So in every existential factor, there is a possibility of discovering the Ananda aspect of the self. This is why the mind is again and again drawn to individual things, people, events, possibilities. The existential aspect and the Ananda aspect have become linked in our awareness and are continuously operating within us. So we have a great bifurcation or division into two: an outer manifestation where action never ceases, and an inner manifestation where the quest for being with our own true self is also going on continuously. The Guru says, what seems to be action outside is only an external reflection of this incessant quest we are feeling inside. All actions which happen outside mirror in themselves what is happening inside, that is, the eternal quest. A wave is an action we see in water. Water is always the same, it never changes, but we can observe the continuous coming and going of waves in it, which is another example of the unexpended action instituted in the world. Waves are the dharma of water, dharma being that which makes anything what it is. For fire to burn or water to flow and moisten, there are innate properties in them which function continuously, and operate universally. That is why the Guru says, in all that is constituted as the external world, there is a perennial law. Dharma and karma are inseparable. When all the individual dharmas are put together and seen as one total dharma, it still has within it the duality of cause and effect. When the cause and effect duality is transcended, it is understood as Brahman, the Absolute. The things we are attracted to do not last. They are transient. So how can we say our inner effort is continuous? This is a subject on which Shankara and Ramanuja have different opinions. Shankara speaks of the transience of the wave and the permanence of water. He says effects like waves are not to be looked into, because water itself never changes. It is the cause of the wave, and we should stay with the cause. This world is of the nature of bhava-rupa, which is an innate law of constant modulation, and according to Shankara, those modulations are not to be recognized. Ramanuja says that's not so. If this world belongs to the Absolute, what is instituted as a permanent quality in it has a co-permanence with the totality. Wherever there is water, there is always the possibility of ripples or waves or tides. Between a ripple and a small wave, there is only a quantitative difference. In any case, it always happens in water. Ramanuja says this is bhava-rupa swarupa, having the eternal nature of producing this kind of effect, so the effects should be recognized. The body has a beingness of birth, growth, change, decay, and death, followed by a transformation into another body, which again goes through all these stages. Here we are not looking at the segmented aspect, but the principle behind it. The principle is not transient, it is a permanent feature. You become hungry in the morning, so you eat breakfast, and your hunger is appeased. But hunger returns at midday, and again you need to eat, and so on endlessly. So hunger is not to be treated as a transient event, but as a continuous, perennial principle. It is to be understood vertically rather than horizontally. The Guru says, although the priyam or fascination with each individual thing appears to be transient, you cannot help but go on seeking new priyams. The quest is continuous. It is as eternal as the action taking place in the external world. In the Karma Darshana of Narayana Guru's Darshanamala, he shows that all the cosmic functions, such as the fire that burns, the wind that blows, the cloud that rains, and the earth that supports, as well as the bodily functions, such as the vital pranas that are going up and down, pulsating in the heart, and communicating in the nervous system, are all to be treated as the functional rhythm of the world order of which we are a part. In the 20th verse of this study, Narayana Guru says that this world has no reality other than the reality derived from what we have already seen as the cosmic mold or karu. Then in verse 89 he says that everything exists and the philosopher sees it as one unitive reality. He has even said elsewhere that each thing taken separately has its own existence. When he says all these things, he is recognizing the continuity and the universality of the Sat, or the existential aspect. Our minds have to operate in two directions. We should cognize the ontologic verity of everything, as well as its teleologic aspect, Ontology is not just the empirical presence of things, what you see with your senses or what you experience with some immediacy in the here and now. To present the world, there is an inner rhythm operating that has an existential richness and validity. It is timeless and endless. We are always experiencing its reality in our actual life. Its presence is factual. The ontologic aspect is not each individual mote we encounter, but the essence of the mote comes from the ever-present ontologic reality. This ontologic reality is both in the external world with all its action and in the internal world with all its aspirations. The problem of what necessitates the external world to function in the way it does and the internal world to aspire in the same direction brings us to the question of the teleology of the total situation. Teleos means perfection in Greek. Whatever is imperfect is aspiring to become perfect. This introduces a time factor. There is a movement over time from what a thing is to what it could be. If what the evolutionists say is right, over millions of years, matter has gone on organizing itself in increasingly complex ways. And in that organization, there is a continuous molding and structuring towards perfection. In your personal life also, you are always moving from crudity to perfection. So we can see a purposiveness in the operation of the ontologic laws, both externally and internally. And that purposiveness is what is referred to as the teleologic aspect. When we look at the external world, we can see a mirroring or a reflection of the progress towards perfection taking place within ourselves. You can also look at the evolution of the external world as outlined by Darwin and presented creatively by Bergson, and apply or interpolate it into your personal life. Then you see in your own life a process of evolution. Taken in that sense, you can say the external world is a Bahya Lingam, a symbol of what is going on within you. In the last two verses, Narayana Guru linked the existential aspect and the axiological aspect, the Sat and the Ananda, to awareness or Chit. Awareness can embrace both sides. The fact I exist is my idea. The fact I want to be happy is also my idea. Thus, consciousness has the special power to identify itself with two different sets of values, existential values and values of happiness. This gives a complete idea of the self. There is a generally held belief that because Vedanta treats this world as Maya, it dampens one's interest in everything here, making one ineffective. Many European critics think even now that the progress of India is retarded because of Vedanta's emphasis on Maya, as explaining away the need to do anything in this world. Narayana Guru restates Vedanta in such a way that every individual reaction, every aspiration which is ontologically valid, has a relevant place in life. There is no shying away from any responsibility or any efficient action, as long as it is done at the right time and in the right place. In this way, we can say he corrects the notion of Vedanta in these verses. Now, by verse 92, the proper status of the transactional world is well established. Life is valid. It only lacks validity when we are confused regarding the pratibhasa and the vyavahara, or everyday aspects. Pratibhasa means that within the transactional world, there are possibilities for illusion. It's true those illusions are to be avoided, but this doesn't mean that because it gives rise to illusion, we should neglect the necessary aspects of the ontologic world. That would be an unwarranted extrapolation. And the free translation of verse 92 is, "The dynamic to act is eternal. As an unexpended law, it acts outside in correspondence with the perception of a dear value. These two are inseparable. By the action performed outside, this binary function is known."